back on the work plan.
I can start from, I guess I think we're room number 3. We talked a little bit about the 5 tracks. They seem very broad, so they seem to cover almost all the issues that we thought, so we thought it adequately covers the issues. Dividing it seems right. How you decide to divide it, I guess people can differ, but in terms of tackling certain issues first, kind of made sense to our group. As far as the timeline goes, I think there was some, we noticed that it goes into 2024, and there was we were wondering a little bit on how that would affect the existing dockets where certain issues were not, basically referred to this docket, right, in terms of equity, and making sure that those dockets move along at the appropriate. So some kind of a balancing, I guess, between the process as well as making sure that the other dockets move along appropriately. One of the novel approaches, we were trying to talk about who's the actual leaders, right, in the community, that this differs. Sometimes we go to community board meetings, but that's not necessarily the leaders of the community. So how to find those particular leaders. One of the suggestions came from the group was maybe the legislators could kind of identify who the leaders are in their areas, that they might have more knowledge in terms of who the community leaders really are. I think that's important. And I think that's the main things we talked about. Anyone else want to add from group 3, room 3?
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, I think also, from group 3, there was an idea of, maybe some individuals may not have the time or resources to respond immediately to provide feedback or give their comments in the docket. So maybe consider different ways or time intervals for people to participate.
Thanks, Andrew. Would any other groups like to report back?
I can jump in. I don't remember what group number we were, but we talked a lot about the phasing and brainstorming ideas to arrange the different tracks in a logical order. And we thought it made sense to put procedure up front because that will be foundational to this docket and others going forward. I had the comment that access to clean energy should move up in some way because it's also foundational to being able to lower customer bills and reduce the need for utility scale projects. Overall, we thought that utility performance is kind of related to all of the different tracks, so it makes sense to cover it in the different tracks and then culminate with like an omnibus panel or track on utility performance toward the end. And we also just started talking about potential outputs, but we didn't get very far in that discussion. And we just also had going back to the phasing, we had general questions about how the PUC chose to phase the different tracks because that could inform our position on what we think would be appropriate. Anyone else from my group want to chime in?
Andrew, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. But if anyone else from her group wants to chime in, or their group wants to chime in, then.
Andrew, feel free to share. And if folks want to chime in, we
Yeah,
still have
sure.
plenty of time. Mhm.
At least in terms of group 4, it seemed like the group was coalescing around like a solution-based approach, pointing out there's a lot of issues at play, and they really wanted to see like a path forward, potentially some type of process that would lead us, that would be clear on where we were trying to go and what we're trying to do, and some type of I guess goal in mind. I mean, I tried my best to encapsulate the group 4 discussion.
I would just add at a high level, I was in group 4. We talked about the pathways, and I think there was general agreement that they were broad enough to encompass all of the issues that we thought, should be addressed in the docket. So there's positive feedback there as well.
It's great to hear. Thank you. Mike, I see you have your hand raised.
Thanks. Yeah, I wanted to add that one of the key points was discussed in our group, which I believe was group 9, that right now we've got a lot of very familiar faces in this proceeding, and because one of the commission's goals was to try and get more people who don't normally show up to our processes involved, we might need to either slow down a little bit before we get too far down the road of making decisions, to making sure we've heard from more folks than just the folks who usually interact with us. Potentially add a third phase if that's necessary, but really to front load some of our outreach efforts before we get too far down any of the roads here.
Thanks, Mike. I was in part of the session for group 11, I believe. There seemed to be a really interesting discussion happening there. Does anyone from that group want to speak up about what was being shared? And it's okay if not.
Hi, this is Ryan Hurley. So I was in group 11. It was a good group. Generally we thought that the 5 tracks encompassed everything. We did note that there might be a little bit of overlap. I guess then we spoke about kind of the issue of that maybe some of these that this equity docket is ongoing at the same time that there is an RFP ongoing, and kind of wondering like, what is it, what will the impacts be? Will there be any possible impacts, and how will it be? And then kind of I'll use that to finally talk about one of the things we talked about was one of the issues with getting community involved is burnout, and how a lot of the community leaders or activists or what have you, they do a lot of issues, and it's often the same people, and they burn out. Especially for my clients, Kahuku Community Association, they've been active in energy issues for a number of years now, and it hasn't always worked out their way. So I think there's a little bit of frustration and challenge of like, now come back to the table and talk more after, hey, these turbines are up. That's just a personal note from me. But that was kind of one of the challenges we saw was burnout amongst community leaders. But great to hear what Mike is talking about. I think we need to get more community people at the table, and so maybe need to slow down. I think the best avenue so far is Henry Curtis is publishing it. Probably that's the biggest thing that I see getting people out there. I'm doing my best, but yeah. Anybody else from Group 11? We had. I'm sorry. William Steiner had some great stuff to say too. Sorry, William, I hate to call you out, but.
Yeah, thank you for
Brian.
that feedback, Brian. Did anyone want to share out anything from room 10? So that was the room with Pete Polonsky from the PUC.
I can share. I was in room 10. Thank you so much. So we talked about participation and the importance of meaningful participation and what does it mean to participate. And we also liked the idea of tracks to explore different issues, but in a really organized way. We thought that when it comes to engaging with community members, the tracks make it easier to understand for community members to pick and choose maybe which ideas or which issues they're most focused on to offer feedback on. And we also like the idea of having all of these different options going on at once and trying to be a little bit more aggressive in the process and encouraging us to make moves quicker. We talked about that in a way as well. But if I misguided or if I misread any of that, please someone else jump in.
Thank you, Noel. I believe another group we haven't heard from yet is room 6. So that was the room with Grace Ralph from the PUC. If there's anyone from that room that would like to share what you all discussed.
I might put some, oh, go ahead, Henry.
I think one thing we discussed was that communities are not monolithic, and that as Ryan mentioned, people within the community pop up on energy and then disappear on energy. But communities are very dynamic, they're very split, they're amorphous, and what works for one community is not going to work for another community. So one thing that's really hard to figure out is what the outcome is, whether it's obviously can't be a template that one size fits all, but how do you involve? And obviously you can't simply open it up and say, we want hundreds of groups to intervene in every proceeding. So the question is, how do you meaningfully engage the community? And I don't have an answer.
Yeah, thank you for that share out. And I don't think we have an answer either, but I'm glad we're all working on trying to find a solution together. Lauren, I see that you raised your hand.
Yeah, thank you. Just kind of continuing on that line, because I think it is like a conundrum of the burnout. How do communities come to the table knowing it's they're worthwhile? And so I'll bring up a comment Kylie said in our group about some kind of community fund for intervening. So there's no like fee or there's compensation for communities when they do intervene at that level. But just wanting to throw out like, because and one of the questions was novel approaches and on engagement. And so how comprehensive the PUC wants to be about it, about meeting community where they are at, like, and doing tiered levels of like data collection, I guess, and then like truly like discussion based, right? So doing a survey data collection, what do you think of this or that? Simple, and people may or may not respond, and or like more intensive discussions with say, and then going from everything from neighborhood board to civics clubs to high school, like, because especially in communities where they're experiencing turbines, solar farms going up, already have power plants, those kind of things. There is already a level of understanding that and expertise kids have living within this. So I will say that about youth engagement as well, and how, again, comprehensive and robust you all want to be about engagement and open to partnerships, you know, even on our front of how we can offer more education on our end. Because Henry does do a great job. And so I learned from Henry too. And that, like, how do we digest this and make this digestible for me, myself, I'm not an expert as well, and then translate it to community folks. And again, with making it intergenerational, as we've mentioned in previous meetings. So I guess it's all a question of resources and what the PUC wants to do and build those partnerships with other orgs, agencies, and whatnot.
Thank you very much for that feedback, Lauren. So we have about 9 minutes before our 5-minute break. Are there any other thoughts or comments or ideas that have been raised through the previous discussion that anyone would like to share?
Just as a prompt or something for consideration, I think it would be just great to hear more thoughts on on community outreach approaches. I know in some of the discussions we've had, like at staff level and in our discussions with other stakeholders within this proceeding too, there's been thoughts of like board meeting attendance, like neighborhood boards as an option. We've talked about, like trying to figure out creative ways to get the word out even on what we're doing. And just if folks had thoughts on that specifically would be really great.
Hi, I think it's important to meet community where they are. So like looking at where events are occurring. I mean, it's all about resources, right? But there are some key events where you have a big part of community and just sharing that information. And yeah, there are different community members who are the ones that will tend to go, but sometimes it strikes a chord with some others. And I do think also with youth, it's super important. But in addition to the neighborhood board meetings, it's taking a look geographically at what's happening in some of the communities and being strategic about which events and how you share and how you tap the coconut wireless that's in that community.
Yes, coconut wireless has been brought up in a few discussions recently, so we need to continue with that spirit.
Parker, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Just following up on previous comments from Noe, Lauren, and Kylie. I think to the extent that we in state, county, and the energy industry also can coordinate and kind of do our homework on our part so that we can reduce community burden and burnout as much as possible by coordinating, whether it's messaging or the time and place, as Noe was just sharing. Tagging on to events for community is already going to be there that have the additional resources besides the information or feedback that we're looking to share and receive. Things like food, entertainment, childcare, things that naturally draw the community together and that bring folks into the mindset of being willing to participate in something that can help to shape their community's energy future without it being overly burdensome. So, understanding where from our organizations we best tap into these different tracks or topics so that we can, discuss about how we want to coordinate our outreach efforts or tag along or coordinate with community as well. I think a lot of that is going to go a long way towards helping encourage community to participate.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Parker. I see Joe has his hand up and then Ryan.
Thanks. Yeah, just a quick comment. So I certainly finding ways to improve community engagement, or it's certainly a worthy effort. I think we have to all collectively keep our eyes open. But as part of that, I think sometimes it's good to hear from folks what's working well right now. Some things maybe we can improve on, but if there are things that we think folks are doing right now that's effective, it's good to hear those too, right? So because I think we naturally tend to, what do we need to add, what's missing, but it's good sometimes to hear what people think perhaps is working and effective right now. Thanks.
Yeah, Ryan and then Kylie.
I guess I would just note, that there's a lot of events that are constantly ongoing in the community, and people just need to go out there and listen. I always noted when I would talk about the project that my clients are concerned with, I'd always say, well, did you go to a football game and ask anybody their thoughts at a football game? You know, did you go to a Kahoot game and set up a booth outside and talk to people there? This is Bone Dance weekend or Bone Dance season, right? Is the energy office we got a new administrator, Mark Glick, was there when I was there, a good guy. Are they going to be setting booths up and asking the community, just listing, hey, what are your thoughts on energy? What are your thoughts on energy transition? You know, there's a lot of events, canoe races, right? When was the last time, you know, somebody went to a canoe race and asked an event? And these are sensitive areas, right? You can't just go and so you have to work with the right people and work with the right community members to go to these events. But when you really talk about taking and listening to the community in the community, these are the kind of events I think that you need to be going to in the right and proper way and having the right people ask the questions. I think the Energy Office made an attempt with that with their Wayfinder program. I'm not sure what success it had, but I think there has been a little bit of success there. But I think that ultimately is, if you're going to take it to the community, you really have to take it to the community. And that means understanding what the different community values are and what the different community events are, right? Is it a canoe race? Is it a football game? Is it a volleyball game? Is it a whatever it is? But, you know, if you're from Hawaii, you know, high school sports means a lot. So it's probably something to do with that. So I'll just note that.
I think you take that one step farther and get the students themselves involved. You know, the students are always are curious, and they're always wondering what's coming down the pike. And a lot of them now are very aware that there needs to be changes in the way we do things. So why not involve the students? Why not have them take the questions home? Why not have them asking the questions at these meetings that Ryan was mentioning? There's a whole untapped source there that we haven't even looked at.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Ryan and William. I see we have Kylie and Wayne and Marty, and then we'll transition to the break.
Thanks. I agree with what everyone is saying, and I think that using multiple modes of community outreach will be key, because people have different abilities to show up at different times. And so one tool, which isn't a perfect tool, but it could be a helpful additional tool, is doing online polls about what types of measures people would like to see under the 5 different tracks, and also gauging interest in leading a community session so that the community members have the opportunity to share their stories. And this is kind of related. The community sessions haven't been set yet, but it seems like community input will be essential to informing the 5 tracks. And so I was wondering if there's a possibility to front load community sessions, and not like that would be it. It's not that you do them once and then that would be over, but at least like doing like a temperature check, reaching out to communities, having the opportunity for them to share in various different ways would be helpful to inform the entire process in this docket.
Absolutely. Wayne?
Thanks. Yeah, just a couple of things. I think first, I think we're realizing how important, how valuable, you know, these community connections and insights and the kind of input that can help facilitate, you know, our moving forward. Just, I feel like personally that the status quo though is that you know, getting community input has been a very extractive process. And you know, like as you know, as Ryan was saying, like it's you know, there's folks that are you know, giving a lot of themselves and that we've been taking for granted, I think, as a society. And so yeah, I feel like we should just be very, very mindful about, you know, if we're gonna, rather than just set up a pop tent outside of a canoe race, like maybe sponsor, you know, like just give back, you know, or at least recognize the value that we're extracting from folks. And then in terms of, and also doing our own homework, right? And so we're not just relying on people sharing stuff in real time, but just, you know, like doing your own research before going in and getting as much background as you can. And along those lines, the second thought real quick is I think history is very important. understanding history of places, and both recent and as well as generational. I think especially for some communities that have been saddled for decades by environmental injustices, we really need to understand what those burdens have been, if we want to talk about moving forward in an equitable manner. And that's all. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for those really important points, Wayne. Marty, I saw you lowered your hand. Did you still want to say
No, I'm all
something?
good. They covered it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much for your feedback, everyone. We will take a quick break now. We'll reconvene at 6:35 to make sure we stay on track, and we'll have our 15-minute breakout session on the individual work streams before concluding the meeting. So I will see you all at 6:35. Hello, everyone. Thank you for returning so quickly. Just give it another 30 seconds or so. So as a reminder, at this point, we're going to have an individual breakout room for each of the 5 work streams. And those are procedural equity, affordability and direct payment assistance, equitable siting and hosting of energy infrastructure, equitable access to clean energy, and utility performance tracking. Everyone will have the ability to join a breakout room. In just a second, when I open them at the bottom of your screen, you should have the option to join a breakout room. And then also, once you're in the breakout room, you should be able to move around to other breakout rooms. So if you would like to go to multiple work streams, you're welcome to do so. And we will ensure that we have a PUC staff member in every single breakout room taking notes that will be on that shared Google Doc. And with that, I will open all the rooms. Please feel free to speak up if you're having any issues, and I'd be happy to walk you through it.
I don't see an option to join a breakout room. Where does it show up?
I didn't see that either.
Me
So I believe it should be at the bottom of Zoom where you have participants, chat, all of those options. There should now be a breakout rooms icon that you can click on and then select which room you would like to join.
I don't see that icon on my screen. This is William Steiner.
Hi, William. Do you know, are you using the Zoom application or joining through the web?
I'm using a Zoom application.
Okay. On the bottom of your screen, do you have the chat icon?
Yes.
And to the right of that, there should be an icon that says breakout rooms.
None there that I can see.
Okay, I can actually assign you to a room. Which group would you like to be a part of?
I was thinking of the equitable access to energy group.
Great, I'll send you to that room.
Thank you.
Part of phase 2. Nonetheless, we will be
Hi, Eric.
internally on research.
Hello.
Hi, this is Will. I'm not able to jump into a room. Can you send me to the equitable access as well?
Alongside the
Sure, there should be a notice that pops up inviting you to join the room.
Okay, got it.
Did that not happen for you, William? Okay, I see.
Any other ideas to focus on this work stream? In particular, I would be interested in.
Would anyone else like to be moved to a room?
Forefront in these discussions. If you have any questions for me, happy to answer them here as well. I'll stop there for a second and give the floor away to somebody else. Perhaps I can start. Go ahead.
Welcome back again, everyone. I hope everyone was able to have a productive discussion. I know we were in procedural equity, and I wish we had more time, but we're going to try and get everyone out of here by 7 as we promised. So with that, I just want to go over a few next steps. So this is the first of 2 meetings. The second meeting will be very similar to this in terms of format. So if you attended this meeting and feel like you got everything out that you wanted to, there's no requirement to attend the second meeting. On the other hand, if you would like to attend, hear more feedback from others and continue to participate and give feedback, everyone is more than welcome. That will be July 20th from 3 to 5 p.m. on Zoom. As follow-up from this meeting, we'll be filing the notes and chat. From this meeting, it'll become a part of the docket record. So please enter any final remarks you'd like captured into the chat now. I'd also like to really recommend to everyone to subscribe to emails and find more information about this docket at the Equity Docket website. So the Equity Docket website itself is a procedural innovation that we're trying out for this docket. Normally, you would have to go to DMS and search docket filings to see when meetings are, to read documents. With the Equity Docket website, we're trying to have all of that in one place in a form that's accessible to the general public. There's a listserv there that you can sign up for. If you're signed up for that listserv, you should have gotten a reminder email yesterday about this meeting. And that Equity Docket website, we're going to work to update it as frequently as possible. And that can really be your single spot to find everything you need relating to this docket. I'd also like to remind everyone that you can file public comments about this docket at any time at the following website. There's a link to that on the Equity Docket webpage, which we'll make sure to put in the chat. And you just need to make sure that you reference docket number 2022-0250. And just as a reminder, all of those public comments will be attributed to you, and that is part of the public record. So just to put all of this in context again, what we're really trying to do right now is we've provided this draft work plan to you. We're collecting as much feedback as we can through these multiple means, through these 2 meetings, through public comments, and then through formal interveners and participants that we have as part of the docket already. And we're going to consider all that feedback, and then we'll issue a final work plan. So that is what is going on in terms of next steps. And Grace or Ashley, do you have, or Mike, do you have anything to add before we finish up for the evening?
Only just to add, and sorry if you did just say this, Eric, but just to reemphasize the timeline a little bit. In the work plan order, we did ask for comments by August 4th. So it's, a solid month still. And again, another opportunity for this July 20th meeting to participate, but just know that you have time, but we are looking, to hear more from you in the docket to help inform next steps on the timeline and also on what we've put forward as far as elements on these tracks and the tracks themselves. So looking forward to hearing more from everyone. Grace or Mike, any final comments?
I just want to thank everybody for really rich discussion. I wish we had more time, but I appreciate everybody who said their piece, and please come back to the next meeting if you've got more to say. We definitely want to hear it.
Mahalo, everybody. Thank you for your time tonight.
And then I guess just lastly, no pressure, commissioners, but it was really great to have you on the call this evening. So if you wanted to say anything, this is certainly an opportunity to do that. And if not, that's fine too. But just opening up the floor. Well, I know they're busy. And hearing none. Okay, well, thanks again, everyone, for your time this evening. We look forward to learning more from you and hearing more from you and continuing on this important journey together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.